Yeah.
So for me, I was sober from pornography for about 7.5 years by the time I had this massive what I would consider my real rock bottom on my podcast. Did an episode recently actually where I talk about this.
Yeah.
I spent a long time. Uh, I was hesitating to share it because there's a lot of kind of depth and vulnerability in what I experienced at that point. Because
Mhm.
a lot of people would think, oh man, I mean, you were 7 years sober, you must have had it all figured out. And as you well know, that's really just never the case. You're
Yeah.
always learning, you're always growing.
Mhm.
And for me, I really reached this point where I had been living what I would call broken or incomplete
Mm.
recovery, which was very much a manager based recovery where it was control, management, structure,
Mm.
rules, boundaries. It was all about if I can just avoid addiction, if I can just do everything just right, then I'll stay sober. And I did manage to stay sober for a
Mm.
number of years that way. Meanwhile, my wife was quite miserable because I was
Mm.
so rigid and I was so uptight. And so this experience that I had of this all crumbling underneath me and realizing, oh my gosh, I was over 7 years sober, but I'm
Mm.
still an addict, still an
Wow.
addict because I've still got the addict mindset. And what that really led to the program I have now, which is really based on and founded upon this concept of acceptance and compassion, learning how to, in other words, surrender, right? We call it surrender. These are just other words that can be used of this giving up, essentially moving into pain, moving through pain, accepting pain and challenges rather than trying to avoid or escape or trying to control,
Yeah.
but moving toward the challenge and gaining acceptance for, yes, this is painful. I'm going to be with it. And I'm going to see
Mhm.
what this is here to teach me. And
Mm.
doing that with God or with Christ.
Wow.
Um, a very big shift for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool, man. It's interesting, like, I always hear guys say, or I don't know, Mark Dennison is one of my favorite guys when it comes to some of the writing and just some of the, and he may not be the one that coined these, but I hear him from him the most. But just like, you know, uh, recovery is a team sport, right?
I like that.
And if you're trying to play it alone, then one, maybe you're really good at it, right? Maybe you find sobriety and you do all the right things like you did for 7.5 years. Good for you. And then I would say shame on you, right? For not investing in others, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
don't mean that judgmental towards you. I'm
No,
just saying, like, to
no, it's
anybody that would,
true. Mhm.
like, would do that. I was like, I remember I've been listening to Russell Brand's book on recovery.
It's a good one.
It's awesome.
It's a good one. I love that
You
book.
could never read
Mhm.
it out loud to anyone because it would be so many beeps. But um, in fact, I
He
just
is he is
ordered it.
pretty crass. He's a
Yeah,
loose cannon, but he's
do
got a
I?
lot of wisdom.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's crazy. Like, so
Yeah.
I listened to it. Actually finishing up the second time I've listened to it, and it's way better to listen to it because it's him reading, and so you get the full accent and the whole,
Mhm. Yes.
his intention behind the words and all this stuff.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
one of the things he
Really good.
says, like, hey, if you're not an addict, if you don't deal with these things, if you don't question these things, great, then go invest in others and help
Yeah.
other people on the planet. Like,
Mhm.
you still have a
Yes.
role to play. So,
Yes. And I
anyway.
and I think I simultaneously had this, like, rigid perfectionism of this belief, I know the way, I know how to do it, I know how to be sober, with this underlying insecurity that really that pride was a defense mechanism for this underlying insecurity of maybe I don't have all the answers and maybe I can't help people. Maybe what's worked for me won't work for others. And I
Yeah.
really, for years, just was so scared and
Yeah.
totally out of tune with my fear. And so I really didn't go
Yeah.
about helping others.
Right. Right.
That changed a lot for me when I turned outward and started
That's interesting.
doing what
That's
I
cool.
could. Yeah.
All right. Well, this is probably good recording stuff. So I'll pause there and let me just pray for us real quick. God, we just
Yeah.
come before you right now and just say thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. Thank you for the opportunity to meet Jake and just to hear his story. And so grateful for the kingdom work that he's about in his in his company and his organization, his ministry, whatever you want to call it. God, just so grateful for the service he has to so many men. And I just pray that you would help it to flourish and that you just bring more and more men to him so that they can find healing and hope. We trust you with this conversation and we love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, man.
Um,
Appreciate that.
yeah. All right. I'm going to kick us off and I'll just do a quick welcome back to the Purity Podcast thing. And then I'm just going to do a brief intro of you. If I flub it up, then you can correct me. But get started.
Hey, that sounds good.
Okay.
Do you want me to mid-sentence,
Yeah. Just go,
correct
hey,
you?
hey, hey. Whoa.
Hey, no,
You're wrong.
no, I'm not that.
I'm not that. Oh, gosh. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to the Purity Podcast, where we talk about real, raw, and redemptive work of recovery, healing, and hope in Christ. Today's guest is someone I'm super excited to introduce you to. His name is Jake Castleman. Jake is the founder of NoMoreDesire.com, a Christ-centered platform dedicated to helping men break free from unwanted sexual behavior and live whole, healed, and holy lives. What sets Jake apart, in my opinion, is his deep commitment to inner transformation, not just this outward sobriety, which really falls in line with what we've just been through and talking about the transformational recovery matrix. So through his writing and coaching and online resources, Jake challenges men to do more than just stop sinning. He invites them into an area of starting to heal. His message is honest, it's drenched with grace, and today we're going to dive into some powerful conversations around how to love the addict part of you and how to relate to your inner critic without shame. So, if you've ever felt stuck in self hatred or wondered why willpower alone isn't working, this conversation is 100% for you. So, Jake, welcome to the podcast. Glad you're on, man.
Man, Chris, what an introduction. You told me before this, you say, if I get anything wrong, just let me know. Well, that's better than I could have done. So I appreciate that.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm really happy to have you on and was introduced to you by Dan Johnson, mutual
Love,
friend,
yeah, love
and
Dan.
gonna have Dan back soon, hopefully on the podcast. And when we talked, and just for the first time, briefly, just really connected with you and kind of what you're about. And it's very unique in a way. I mean, there's a lot of great ministries out there. There's a lot of great programs, and I think uh, I mean, Mark Dennison should get I should get paid every time I say his name because one of the things he said is the best program that you can be a part of is the one that works for you, right? Like
I like that.
go to the group that works
Um,
for you and be a part of that. And
yeah.
I'm so impressed with what you're doing. And why don't we just I'll pause there and just give me a snapshot of your ministry and kind of what No More Desire looks like and maybe where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So No More Desire, I work with men one on one. And essentially, it is a step by step program to help men build the skills of a recovery mindset and a recovery lifestyle. So I take a pretty heavily anchored psychological approach and also integrating things of nutrition and exercise and things in your relationships and things about the neuroscience of recovery. So, how do I help the dopamine levels in my brain, et cetera, when it comes to neurotransmitters? Kind of bringing all these together under this umbrella, or what I would say is a foundation of spirituality and spiritual practice. Um, and so for me, that's to a broad audience. I'm Christian myself, and I do Christ-centered work in my own recovery, but essentially approaching people where they're at. So I talk about higher self, I talk about higher power, and just however that can bring that message to people. So for me, working one on one with men, one of the greatest things that I do, or one of the things that I focus the most upon, is emotional mindfulness. One of the things that we struggle with the most when we struggle with addiction is how to tolerate and regulate painful emotion. We don't know, we aren't taught how to do that in an effective way. We're taught to either escape painful emotion or to control painful emotion. And with painful emotion, we're talking anger, we're talking fear, shame, grief. We're also talking about things like perfectionism or things like, of course, cravings, right? That we suffer. And so many of us don't know what to do with the craving. It's like, okay, I guess I fight it or I try to ignore it or I distract myself from it. And I actually teach men to dive straight into it, which is completely counterintuitive for a lot of us, and what that actually means. And so I use emotional mindfulness meditation and facilitate that in sessions. I integrate parts work and I integrate embodiment for doing that to essentially teach men when you're so for instance, if your wife comes to you and she's angry, right? She's filled with rage because you did something that upset her,
Mhm.
how to actually open up space and feel her emotion of anger and how to tolerate, regulate, understand it, and understand your emotion that you can then approach her in a way of acceptance, compassion, understanding, and to be able to do that with any painful emotion.
Yeah, I love it. So you, a lot of what you emphasize is kind of the addict part of the brain, not someone who truly is, but rather like it's not being who they truly are, but rather it's part of like trying to cope with the underlying pain. So, how would you
Mhm.
explain to someone who's just getting sober why treating this part with compassion is more effective than suppression?
Yeah. This is one that I'm really passionate for, Chris, and this can be hard for a lot of us to understand because we really hate our addictions. We really hate that part of us that has engaged with the addiction and essentially ruined our lives. And what I suggest, and I'm taking this from IFS, essentially internal family systems, which is this deeply compassionate approach to psychology, and teaches people, fundamentally, you have to understand first a new way of looking at the mind. When we say addict part, what does that mean? A vast majority of us, up until the last decade or so, more and more people are learning about this, but a vast majority of us perceive the mind as one unit, right? I am me, I am my mind. There's one me, one brain, one personality. And parts work or internal family systems actually takes that assumption and tosses it out and replaces it with a new one, which is really strange and can sound so odd for people at first until they start to experience it. And it's actually quite incredible how fast people can intuitively start to get it. But it's essentially that you are made up of parts, these little sub personalities that make up your personality. And you can actually dialogue with, get to know, get to understand, feel compassion for, empathize with these parts of you. And central to that philosophy is the higher self, or it's just called self with a capital S in IFS. But for me, I believe it to be the light of God that you carry, the spark of God, or the God image, or this little piece of the light of Christ that you carry inside you that knows truth and if that loves unconditionally, and that aspect of you is to lead out and show compassion for these parts of you. And so again, that can get for some people that sounds, a little woo woo, little, existential spiritualism, etc., but
Yeah,
very powerful in practice. And I think that's
yeah.
what I want to be understood is it's not so much, is this the way it works? Isn't this the way it works? Is it helpful? Does it lead to sobriety? Does it help people live better? And it does. It's really quite incredible. So when it comes to this addict part of you, how do you understand it? And parts work teaches that there are protector parts of you, some that try to control, others that try to escape in order to deal with pain, right? So
Mhm.
when I feel fear, when I feel shame, when I feel grief or sadness, when I feel loneliness, I have protector parts of me that will try to solve that situation using control, in other words, anger or being perfect, putting on a mask, I'm not going to show my feelings, I'm going to shut down, not let anybody see me, or escape. So this would a lot of times be the addictive kind of behaviors, right? Porn, sex, drugs, alcohol, food, uh, shopping, you name it, right? We can numb out with it or we can seek it as an escape. I apologize if you can hear my son screaming in the background.
No, it's great.
Hopefully there's
This is raw, man. I'm just kidding.
there you go. I love it. I was like, I hope you can edit it afterwards. But you're like, this is
No, no.
raw. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
this is we're all good. We're all good. It's family show. Well,
That's
maybe
right.
not complete
I love
family show.
it. So so essentially, when I come to understand these parts, and I've had some very significant experiences personally with this, very significant experiences with clients in teaching them this and helping facilitate them and getting to know these parts of you that try to use escape or control to try to manage your emotions, they've been around for you for a long, long time. Like since you were really young, you took on, if you want to use another framework, coping mechanisms, right,
Mhm.
to deal with pain. And this started early in childhood. And so when you actually get to know these parts and you have this inner dialogue and this understanding, you get to see, okay, like for me, for instance, the addict part of me, if you will, showed up, I believe, when I was 4 years old. And it started when I moved from California to Utah. And my whole family was really upset. My dad was, he's in this field. So he was actually addicted to porn. My mom was going through betrayal trauma. It was extremely difficult. I didn't know any of that as a 4-year-old old, but I definitely felt the stress. I felt the overwhelm of my siblings and my parents. And so what did I do? Right. I'm a little kid. I don't know how to like understand or imagine any of this. I went to food. I went to video games. These were my comfort spaces. Right.
Yeah.
And so this part of me is like, hey, I have a place of comfort for you to go to, or a place of stimulation, escape. This will fix your problem. This will help you feel better.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, when these parts of us do this, they actually cause the problem they're trying to fix. Right.
Yeah.
That part of your mind doesn't know that, right?
Mm.
Because especially when you're real young, you can't logic that out. But this is built into you, this mechanism. So it causes the problem it's trying to fix, but it's genuinely trying to help you out. And when you get to see these parts and see them with compassion, see the intention underneath to actually come to love that part, it's amazing this concept of love that goes back, as far as we know, right? All the way back to God and toward to the foundation of our world, right? Love is this healing balm, is this powerful agent for transformation. When I bring love to these parts of me and I bring them acceptance and compassion, and I see the intent behind this part of me that pointed me to addiction, I get to know it and understand its perspective. I can actually begin to love that part, and that part can actually begin to shift and change into something actually very helpful.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, this is a part of you likely that it could play a few different roles in your life, but a lot of times it's part of you that likes to have fun, likes
Yeah.
to let
Yeah.
loose, likes to have a
Yeah.
good time, right?
Yeah.
Excitement, something new, novelty, or it could be a comforter for you, right? It wants to bring you comfort. Could be, there's a few things it could be, but if you can actually help that part transform and start to understand it, you can start to utilize it in a good way in your life. It's not something you need to crush or destroy or,
Yeah.
kill it. Like I said, constantly kill it, destroy the addict part of you. You can't, it can be transformed into something good,
Let
actually.
me ask you this. So you for what I'm hearing and kind of what I've read about you and your on your website, you teach that combining this emotional mindfulness, embodiment, self compassion with that parts work, right? Like
Mhm,
taking it,
mhm,
embracing all of those things.
mhm.
What's a simple daily practice look like for someone who is wanting? I'll call it to, or maybe you called it. Maybe I'm stealing it from you, but to befriend their addict part instead of
Totally.
squashing it.
I love that. I'm glad you're asking that. So I call this RAIL. It is an acronym that's I would call it a 4-step process. It's really 5, and I'll explain that. So, the R in rail is to recognize protectors. So, when you have pain come up in your life, so let's say it's anger, or let's say it's cravings. So, we'll actually turn it to cravings because that is our main audience here. So, if a craving for pornography comes up, you want to recognize the protectors who are involved. So you do what's completely counterintuitive. You do exactly the opposite of what you might think, which is you're going to actually, and there's a mindfulness concept again, you turn your full attention immediately to the part of you that's feeding you the cravings. So not to fixate on the fantasy or fixate on the, whatever your mind's coming up with, but the part of you that's feeding you the cravings. And as you turn your full attention there, you turn your attention inward into the body and open up space for the emotion there. And there's probably a lot of tension in that moment because it's not just sexual arousal. That's what we often think it is. There's a lot of things that come with those cravings you're experiencing. So as you turn your attention inward and open up space in the body, and this gets really hard for some people because they're like, "What does that even mean?" It's a practice. You do it over time, opening up space for the emotion in your core. And you can get that over time as you practice, and then you're going to pull back to witness this part in you. So again, going to like kind of that Eastern, like Buddhist or Taoist, kind of Eastern framework of mindfulness, you witness this emotion. There's craving here. There's a desire to escape or a desire to find comfort or to numb out. And then you're actually going to welcome this part in. Again, this sounds so counterintuitive. You're going to welcome it in for it to sit down with you and you're just going to feel with it. Or you're going to empathize with it. Okay, you're here. Tell me why you're here. And you don't try to think of that. You don't try to figure it out or solve it. That's immediately what we try to do. You're just going to feel with it and turn your attention to it. And you're probably going to hear this part say, "Oh man, like I really want this and I really want that. And this sounds really good." And, it's this part that wants to indulge and be present and, go crazy and have an exciting experience. Or maybe for you, it's something more like a part of you that's like, "I just really want to find comfort. I just really want to feel good. I just really want to relax." Or perhaps it's a party that's more like kind of like fantasy, like a dreamer, and it's just like, I just want to like escape into this like whole fantasy land and imagination, right? Depends on you and your personality, how you are. So you're going to hear that for a bit and you're going to use this as a trailhead. And essentially, as you hear this party that wants to escape or find comfort, etc., there's gonna be another part of you of equal and opposite reaction to this part. It's guaranteed, and you may not see it, but it's there. Maybe it takes a little while to get in touch with, but there's another part that's playing the control or that judgment, the one that is judging you for that feeling.
Mhm.
And it's saying, "No way are you gonna do this. Are you crazy? Why are you thinking about this right now? You must be out of your mind. Like, are you a bad person? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you even thinking of any of this?" And so you're gonna invite that part in. You're gonna welcome it in to sit with and feel with it, right? So you feel with that part. So those are kinda and there may be multiple parts there, but that's kind of the basic concept of recognized protectors. So that can be done in a simple sense. Part of me wants me to escape. Yeah, there's part of me that's judging me too. Or it can be done more deeply, right? It's kind of I've just described to really be with it for a bit. Then you're going to do again another thing that sounds completely counterintuitive. And I know this is fairly long, but hopefully this is helpful for people. So the next thing that's counterintuitive in Rail is A, which is appreciate protectors. You're going to do the thing that you would never think to do, which is to actually appreciate those parts.
Mhm.
You have an inner critic, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the episode. But you have this inner critic who's like, "You shouldn't be thinking about this stuff. You shouldn't be obsessing about sexual things. Get this out of your mind." Trying to control it. It's judging you for it. This party wants you to be a better person. Wants to help you, be good, be a productive member of society, show up for your family, be a good husband, be a good father. This is a good part of you. And you're also going to appreciate the very part that think you need to hate, which is
Yeah.
that part that wants to act out with the addiction. You say, "Okay, this part of me is trying to bring me comfort," or, it's trying, I appreciate, you literally talk to the part. You say, "I appreciate you're trying to bring me comfort," or "I appreciate you're trying to bring me like excitement and you want me to have fun. You want me to have a good experience. You want me to experience pleasure." There's nothing bad about fun or excitement or pleasure, right? These are inherently at their core positive things. So you appreciate those parts. And then you're going to ask these parts, "Okay, you've shown up. What are you here to protect?" And underneath that, you're going to find I, which is insecurities. And a lot of us hear insecurity. There's a lot of connotation behind that word. Essentially, just whatever it is, it's lacking security, right? Insecure. I don't feel secure. So this is always going to be one of three things, and this is said in a lot of areas: fear, shame, or grief.
Yeah.
Fear, shame, or grief. That's what you're going to find. What am I afraid of? How am I feeling inadequate or bad, like I'm a bad person? Or what am I sad about? There's some nature of that, right?
Mhm.
Or it could be a painful sensation, like I'm tired or I'm hungry, right? It could also be that. And so you get present with that and you invite that part in, welcome it in to sit with it and feel with it. Okay, be with that for a while. And then the I I've just mentioned, insecurities, is a double I. So the next is intentions. And so you actually see underneath that, if you're afraid, like let's say, you know, let's take shame, for instance. I feel like I'm not showing up well as a father right now. I just feel inadequate. I don't know what to do with my kids. Like, I don't even know like how to be a good dad. What do you inherently see in there? That's actually a reflection of the goodness that's inside of you. This is where love comes in.
Mm.
You want to recognize underneath all parts of you that there's goodness at the core. And it's, I want to be a good dad. I want to show up well for my kids. I want to, I want to be amazing. Like I really want to serve and love people. You can do the same thing with anger. You can do it with a lot of things, and you'll find at the core these good motives. This, I would say, the love in that part that's underneath it all, and that enables you to feel love for it, if you will. And then the last letter is L, which is leadership. And so this doesn't. So it's leadership and love. So if you just stay there in that place of love for these parts, the protectors, this part of you that's feeling fear, shame, or grief, right? And just be in that space and then say, okay, what have I seen from this? Like maybe you put yourself in a really vulnerable situation where you're up way too late, or maybe you worked way too many hours when you should have, taken a break, you're stressed out. You come out with probably some kind of truth. If you don't, that's fine. This is actually feeling these emotions is key. That's the most crucial part.
Mhm.
And so see what you come out with, and it'll often come naturally of like what the message is there for you. Um, and so that's the process. And by the way, this is a tiered system. So you don't have to walk this whole thing. You could just do one step, which would be like recognize protectors. I feel angry. I feel pissed off right now. There's a
Yeah.
part of me that's ticked off. Or,
Yeah.
okay, I'm experiencing cravings right now, and just recognizing and being present with that. Just that can actually help separate and give you a little bit of space between you and
Mhm.
the painful feeling.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I mean, like it's, and now I'm going to oversimplify a really great
No, it's great.
program, but it's bringing those things to light, right? Like it's bringing them to the light and just identifying that they're real, they exist, and
Yes.
I don't have to suppress them, right? Like it's
Yes.
okay to embrace those things. And
Yes.
I think that's kind of, I mean, would you say this is still part of that how to love the addict part, or is that moving into how to relate to the inner critic? Is which is
I'd
that?
love to I'd love to talk more about that for sure in a more
Yeah,
specific sense, but yes, it's
is that
both. You can
that's
use it for
yeah, yeah.
any painful emotion, which is kind of the magic of it.
Yeah, that's okay, super cool. And one of the things that you sent me that I'm just going to kind of highlight is when you talk about how to relate to the inner critic. You one of the things you wrote to me was that. Hang on, just a second. Can you hear him barking?
A little bit.
Okay. Hey, knucklehead, go. His girlfriend's probably walking by. No, once in my office, that's not going to happen. All right. Okay. Anyway, sorry, Mike. You get to edit that out. All
Yeah.
right. Anyway, one of the things that you wrote to me and you sent this just kind of a synopsis of this, how to relate to the inner critic, is you said that many of us men don't know how to relate to our fierce, aggressive masculinity, especially
Mhm.
those of us who are Christian. We're taught that anger is bad and unchristian. Society also
Mm.
teaches that masculinity is toxic or something to be ashamed of. Instead, we need to learn how to relate to our anger and aggression in a healthy way that enables us to harness the strong part of our personality to serve our family and community. And I think that that is one of the things that I would say that I see a lot in men that I mentor and that I talk to. And you kind of referred to it earlier as just this, the thing that we've done, the trust that we've broken, and the liars that we've been. break so much trust with our wives that her anger comes out in sometimes rage, like you said, in a way that she wants me to feel the pain she's feeling, right? And my masculinity as a man won't let me like embrace that. It's good now. It just makes me mad, and I'm going to lose my cool, and I'm going to fly off the handle because I'm not willing to embrace what she's going through. So unpack that a little bit. I may have led you down a path that you weren't necessarily going, but unpack that a little bit for me.
I love it. I love it, Chris. I'm actually going to I'm going to get vulnerable here and refer to a personal experience I literally just had before
Okay.
this episode
Right.
with my own wife. Hopefully she's not upset
Is
by that.
is she
Uh,
there where she can come on? No, I'm kidding.
yeah, right. Exactly.
Hear her side.
She'd be really surprised. She's like, "Oh boy."
Yeah.
Um, but okay. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm building this, continuing to build this business, and I wouldn't say I work really long hours, but decently long hours, and so essentially, I had this podcast episode tonight. I've been working till about 6 p.m. and this was at 7 p.m. I've been doing that most days. We have an agreement between us that I finish up, shortly after 6. I kind of finish up work at 6 and then I will transition. I kind of pray and I do some other things to just get mindful and kind of breathe and things for 10 minutes and then I go be with my family. I have been stretching that boundary lately. I've been pushing it more to like 6:15, 6:20, 6:30. And tonight I did that, and so I've done this probably for the last week. And it's funny how these things that just stay kind of under the surface, we ignore them. And I felt unconsciously like, I probably shouldn't be doing this. But part of me, again, we speak in parts here, part of me is like excited about work and excited about what I'm doing. I'm learning something
Mhm.
new. And I'm like, oh, what about this? And what about that? Or a part of me is like, I just got to finish up this one thing, or I just get
Yeah.
right. Meanwhile, there's a part of me that does know, Jake, you agreed with your wife that you were going to finish up work at this point. What are you doing? It's just kind of this subtle voice. And that may even be, right, God or that higher self, right? That higher
Mhm.
power that's speaking to me like, a little voice of Christ, like, hey man, you told your wife, man, you got to be honest. And so I wasn't paying attention to that. So because I'm not paying attention to that, who needs to bring it up? My wife. She's now placed in this situation. So she calls me probably 6:20 and I don't remember what we say, but essentially she gets angry really quickly and uh essentially says, Jake, here's the thing. You you're working really late tonight. You have a podcast episode. You're a guest on a podcast tonight. I've got to make dinner. I'm getting tired of you taking things later every night when she's pregnant too. So man,
Oh,
this is it's making me look really bad. She's
no, it's making you look human, which I love.
she's pregnant, so she's also, she got a hormone. She's, only, oh my gosh, 2.5 months away from due. And so feeling very heavy at this point. We have our 2.5-year-old son. And so she's trying to manage everything, right? It's a lot. And she's just like, I'm already having a hard enough time with you working until 6. Like we agreed on that so you could have some time to work. You're stretching it. Right. And I cannot describe to you what I feel and what every other man I ever talk to will feel in that moment of just, it's like this young boy inside. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Right. It's like run for the hills.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And what I found fascinating about tonight, which was a really huge victory for me, like I really felt very grateful, is I've been doing this work to relate to this inner critic in me. And the same way that you relate to other people's criticism, you relate to the criticism internally. It's
Mm,
like it's a mirror of
mm.
of one another, which is a fascinating inner world of parts work when you get to understand it more and more. So I've been working to relate to this part of me that says those same things and can actually be very, very harsh, very direct. I call this part the challenger, or you could call it a general, or I have a client that calls it the coach, right? Like a football coach
Yeah, yeah.
that it's hard. It can be harsh and it can be angry and it can even like yell at me,
Mhm.
right? And always what this part is trying to do, so that this is where this moment when my wife brings this up, it is not important because we can be reactive of like, why is she being so mean and rude?
Yeah.
Gosh, and it's
Yeah.
almost like this little boy in us comes out
Yeah.
like, geez, can't you be a little nicer, mom? Like, what's your
Yeah.
deal? You
Yeah.
know? And and so instead I've been learning to relate to this part and see it always pretty much has two motivations, at least this is what I've seen so far. Either one, it's trying to help me be better. Like it's trying to help me be better as a whole, but either one is trying to motivate me. Like it's bringing painful emotion, something very direct, in order to motivate me to become greater,
Mhm.
or something that's highly counterintuitive. But I relate it to the military. You'll have generals that will try to break their soldiers down so that they can build back up. It's like they'll be so harsh and critical, reject them, right? They will
Is it like
do,
shaming them? Like you feel
yeah,
like you're being
shaming them.
shamed? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, being
Yeah.
shamed. They'll shame them. I am not saying that that is a good way to go about it by
Right.
any means.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I find it very unkind.
Yeah.
But if I can learn how to relate to that voice and say, okay, if I can feel that and actually practice feeling that when that voice comes up and it's intense, and be like, okay, here's this part of me showing up. It's being critical, it's being intense, it's shaming me. Okay, either it's letting me know something important and it's like, "Hey, you gotta shape up, man. Like, you gotta be
Mhm.
better, dude. You're not doing well enough as a husband right now. Like, you're
Yeah.
you're you're, bringing things late every night. Like, are you kidding me right now? Your wife
Yeah.
needs you," right? Or it will be that really kinda critical shaming voice of just, "You're nothing," and it'll get really, really
Right.
intense. And so if I can learn to relate to that voice and practice relating to it, say, "Okay, it's trying to motivate you to be better," or it's kinda doing this, making me more resilient to
Mhm.
criticism, making me more resilient to shaming so I can be stronger as a person.
Yeah.
Again, not saying it's a great way to go about it, but the way you
Yeah.
relate to it is important. So when my wife brings this up, I've been practicing that. And fortunately, and it was really actually pretty incredible for me, I did not at that moment feel this visceral reaction of panic that I have felt for the last
Mm.
10 years of my marriage whenever my wife gets angry.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually saw in her this same part showing up in her that's trying to protect her. It's trying to
Mm.
set boundaries. It's trying to get what it needs. And it's like, hey, you're not showing up well enough right now. What's your deal?
Yeah.
Knock it
Yeah.
off. Right. And so, me hearing that and hearing the intention, in other words, the love at the core of that part that's trying to protect my wife, it's
Mhm.
like, hey, I have got needs here, man.
Yeah.
You're not showing up well enough right now. And so I was able to hear that. And I was able to say, you know what, babe? I hear what you're saying. You're right. I haven't been showing up well enough lately as far as getting off work on time. Now you're showing up in this babysitting role to try to, you have to feel like you got to tell me what to do.
Mhm.
I got to be better. You don't deserve that. I'll make sure in the future that I'm more disciplined about this. I apologize. Oh man, it was this moment where I was just like, yeah, husband powers, man. Like masculinity, man. I'm
Yeah.
feeling it.
Yeah.
I that is really very new for me. I've been
Mm.
learning about this just the last few months of my life, especially, and how to do this.
Yeah. That's awesome. Probably need to wrap up pretty soon, but I'd
Sure.
love to just hear anything else that you would like to talk about. I mean, I feel like, a question that I haven't asked that you were really super excited for me to ask or something like that, but is anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. I think I'd love to wrap up just in this approach to recovery of this approach of understanding that I truly believe that God and Christ have unconditional love for
Mm.
you. And I believe that the way that that works, because we can get really confused on terms with this, but I believe that He sees the deep goodness that is God given inside of you. At
Yeah.
your core, you're a good person. You want to be good. You want to do the right thing. And I believe that Christ is able to love us unconditionally because He knows that. He sees it underneath all the twisted behaviors and all the crazy stuff that we do. He's like, underneath all of that anger, I see someone who's afraid. And underneath that fear, I see someone who cares and wants to do the
Yeah.
right thing. You don't feel like you're matching up to those expectations. And it's the same thing with our addictions. He sees how parts of us are trying to escape or find comfort or trying to find fantasy. And I think he sees underneath all that, and that's why he loves us unconditionally. Doesn't
Yeah.
condone the behavior, he wants better for us, he wants the
Mhm.
best for us,
Mm.
but he knows what's underneath. That's what I
Yeah.
believe.
That's awesome, man.
So,
So tell me, real quick how people I mean, obviously nomordesire.com, right? That's the best way to get a hold of you. Um, any other places like give me a snapshot. I think you've got a blog, you've got a podcast. How do they find that?
yeah, so I have a blog on my site, nomordesire.com. You can also, my podcast is on any platform you go to, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. If you
With the
really
same
want
name?
Yep,
The
No
same,
More
yes,
Desire.
No More
Yep,
Desire. Yep,
exactly, yep.
cool.
And if you want to kind of do a deep dive into some really cool free resources, if you go to my site's homepage, you'll find a free ebook, you'll find a free workshop. It's an hour and a half of some deep material of how to build a mindset and lifestyle of recovery. I'd recommend starting there. So,
Awesome. Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if you know this, but when I interview guests, the last thing I do is I ask a question that is not related to recovery or sobriety or anything in this world. It's really just it's related to I'm a storyteller. I like to tell stories, and I'm just curious, like when you're at a dinner party and you're maybe with your wife and you're with a group or whatever, and everybody's telling their story or telling a joke or whatever it is, and the crowd kind of silences for a moment, and it's your turn. Your wife gives you the nod, like, do it, like this is your moment. What's the story? What's your go-to story that you have that if you're in a small setting that this is the one I would tell that would get everybody's attention. Doesn't have to be funny, just whatever. But I mean, just what's your go-to story? And by the way, we can edit out all the silence, so you take as long as you want.
Fortunately for you and I actually have something immediately,
Oh, good.
which is so this is just something that is fairly recent. It's like a few months ago or so. I think of my son because he just does all these amazing things. Kids, they do these incredible things that they have no idea are as amazing as they are. So, um, I was at the park with my son. It's just him and I, and he's 2.5, and
Mhm.
he got up to this big slide. I mean, especially for a little guy like him, it was huge and fast. And he went down it and dropped off of it onto his butt on the ground. And it didn't hurt him so bad physically, but it like kind of shocked him.
Right, right.
And he stood up and he's just got these big eyes. And I said, "Hey, man, are you okay?" And he's like, he didn't kind of didn't respond. And I was like, was that painful, buddy? And I said, "Was it also exciting though?" And I was like, "Sometimes life is like that. It's both exciting and painful."
That's
And
right.
I kid you not, without missing a beat, my son, well, I shouldn't say without missing a beat. He kind of thinks about that actually.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "Well, that's not good."
2.5, man. Word from
By
the wise.
That's right. By the
That's
mouths
not
of
good.
babes,
That's right.
wisdom comes forth.
That's awesome. You'll have a ton more stories like that for sure, coming out of his mouth and your newborn,
Yeah.
their mouth too soon. So, hey man,
Yeah.
thank you for being a part of this today, and tell your wife thanks for letting us have you for the last hour or so, and really grateful that you're here. Thanks for the ministry that you have and that you're a part of, and everything you do in the recovery world. So, thanks for being on tonight.
Hey, thanks, man. And thanks for everything you do, Chris.
Yeah,
Purity Podcast, what you guys stand for is awesome. Thanks for
thanks,
having
man.
me on.
Absolutely.